All right, here we go. One of the most legendary actors in television in the television business, Craig Grant, also known as muMs the Schema. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. The most legendary. But thank you.
In a sense, to the whole television scene with Oz, with Luke Cage, with the Chappelle Show. Like you did
Yeah.
have like a legendary like role in a way too, So yeah,
Man, I wish I would have did more of that Luke Cage squabbles, man. That was a lot of fun.
yeah.
And Oz was a lot of fun. I mean, my job is a lot of fun. Let's not get it twisted.
True. And you're also known for your poetry too. And a
Yeah.
lot of the poetry videos is also like amazing too, especially with the ones done on Oz and like in Slam Nation too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
So I,
Yeah.
I just want to start it off first. So you grew up in the Bronx. Which like neighborhood like did you like mostly grow up in like in the Bronx?
I mostly grew up in the South Bronx. I, first place I remember was Clinton Avenue off of East Tremont. And then I moved from there to Garden Street, and then from Garden Street to River Park Towers. I actually grew up in River Park Towers, and then in 1980, um, we moved across. We moved to the Northeast. I'm sorry, we moved to the Northeast Bronx, where I am now, and I still live here. I love the Bronx forever
Yeah,
and ever and ever and ever. I'll always have a place in the Bronx.
I definitely know what you mean. And the environment in the Bronx growing up, like throughout your childhood, like what was like the experience, growing up on like what the Bronx is like in a way?
I mean, it's hard to ask that question. What the experience was like. I mean, I have nothing else to compare it to. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was just my childhood. I don't know, riding the train, the bus, the back of the bus,
Yeah.
the really back of the bus, holding on the back of the bus.
True. Yeah.
I had a lot of friends. I was really into sports a lot growing up. Uh, I mean, like I said, I don't think there was nothing to write home about. I had a mother and a father, luckily, and well, not luckily, but graciously. Um, yeah.
No doubt. And with Bronx and like and New York too, like South Bronx especially, it's the birthplace in like hip hop, like with one of the most like
Yeah.
legendary
Well.
streets and like
Yeah.
legendary
Well, then
actors.
there's that. There is that. Yeah, the place. When we moved over to River Park Towers, Cedar Park
Yeah.
was actually across the street, um, across the Major League and up the block. And there's a lot of parties over there. I remember when it started, man. I used to listen to the tapes. You know, I was young, but I was into it from a very young age. And I remember when I remember the day Rappers Delight was handed to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it. And just really, really was really into hip hop. I'm still really into hip hop.
Sure. Definitely know what you mean too. And
Yeah.
like, getting into like the whole like entertainment scene there, were there like ever like any inspirations that made you want to pursue like more in the scene, like especially from like the Bronx and like New York in general?
Well, I mean, I pursued to be a rapper. I wanted to be a rapper, and I started rapping because I'm Rakim, KRS-One, Grandmaster Flash and Furious Five. Uh, you know, those are LL Cool J. I mean, those are my like heroes, and so I started rapping. I set out to go be a rapper, and subsequently, it all kind of like coalesced and twisted and turned into poetry. I found myself on the stage performing poetry. Um, And then the poetry, like, led to me being on Oz. You know, I had there was a friend. She was a director, and she, well, not a friend. She wasn't a friend when I met her, but she was a director. And she saw me from the audience and asked if I was interested in auditioning for this TV show that she was directing. Hell yeah. And then they put me on Oz. Yeah, that was my first gig.
No doubt. And so growing up, like with your creative history and background, what was it like, and what inspired you to become like a poet and an actor, like as well?
Girl, I never set out to be a poet. I never set out to be an actor. I'm in love with the language. I'm in love with language. I'm in love with storytelling. Um, so I was happy on the stage. I was working in a hospital as a nurse's aide and doing poetry at night. I was happy. But then, jumped on the stage and that was fun. And then putting the camera, like spitting my poems to the camera, like, you know what I mean? Like opening up the
Yeah,
emotions
no doubt.
here was just like everything, you know what I mean? And so I fell in love with acting, luckily, as I was acting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, brother. Yeah. And it's just like that whole like direction, like being on camera and just speaking, spitting your piece, becoming natural too. Like
Yeah,
especially like
yeah,
a talented actor, like they have to be like very natural at being themselves, like
yeah.
even like on camera and off camera too, and that's where you get like that real and that authentic energy from, because
Yes.
like
I mean, the greatest actors, man, are just like babies in front of a camera. Put the camera on. It's it really is like that. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm blessed because I get to be a kid for the rest. You know what I mean? My
yeah, I know.
career is as being a kid. I
Yeah,
mean, it's pretend on the surface, but like, within the confines of, the science of acting,
yeah.
I get to know more about myself because every character is me. Anything that I play is me. But in that, I get to learn more about me, and the limits of my abilities or my being, you know what I mean? Because there's nothing really special about me other than the fact that I've had this time to concentrate and actually, study and practice. You know, nah, it's like acting is like a martial art. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yo, yo.
So, such a joy. You know what I mean? I'm in a place of, I'm just being gracious. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Grateful. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like when I was like looking at Oz and like watching the TV show and seeing a lot of other stuff too, like you were credited as like muMs the schemer instead of your actual name too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Let's clear this up real quick. I never spelled my name muMs the schema. My name is muMs the THE. I
yeah,
have no problem pronouncing a T, a H, and the E. I don't have to dumb it down to a D and A.
yeah,
You feel me?
yeah,
I'm sorry. But it follows me wherever I go. Everybody assumes that because I'm from the Bronx that I spell my name muMs the schema. It's not the
yeah.
but
Yo,
it's a lowercase m, lowercase u,
yeah,
capital M, lowercase s, the schema.
yeah,
Okay, around 6 or 7 years, maybe 8 years in, I dropped the schema, so it was just muMs, and then I, kind of brought it back, but as a writer, and my pseudonym, muMs the schema, but I don't know where this DA came from. But anyway, Um, yeah, that was my pseudonym, and for a while, that's all I was credited as, because I'm not gonna put my government name out there. I don't know where this thing was going. That's how I thought
Yeah.
back then. You know what I mean?
Nah,
And then when I was like, oh, this is a career actor. I'm an actor. Oh shit, oh, look at this paycheck. Yeah, they need my government name for that paycheck. So, and the credit, IMDb, so I ended up putting my government on it.
true, no doubt.
So now
So,
at this age where I'm at now, I'm Craig Mums Grant. Sometimes when I'm feeling it out, when I'm doing poetry or rhyming, I'll Mums the schema.
no
There you
doubt,
go.
no doubt.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's interesting too. A lot of people like wanted to find out like how you actually like had that name in the first place too. Was it just like strictly for the poetry, or like did you ever had like that nickname like as a kid, like in a way?
The way it came to be was I had another name. I've had plenty rhyme names, plenty graffiti names. You know what I mean? I could go down the list growing up, tagging my name in my black book and this, that, and the third, and rhyme names. I've had a few, but a friend of mine, when I was really pursuing rapping to be a rapper, I had a friend of mine that was working at Uptown Records, and he was like, "Yo, I may be able to pitch y'all," and he's like, "Y'all need you need a gimmick." And since I was from the Bronx, I used to speak with a really, really, really deep Bronx accent. You know what I mean? I'm trying to put it on now, but it's since gone. But it was like a drawl, it's like I was talking with marbles in my mouth, you know what I mean? I was mumbling. And my boy was like, "Yo, you should call yourself Mumbles, like the dude from Dick Tracy." And I was like, "Yo, that's dope." And I tried it, and it was just dumb. I was overdoing it. But I was like, "Oh, but that word mums, that shit sounds fly." And then that was kind of at the time I was transitioning into being a poet. And I was like, "Ooh, mum's the word. Nah, that's just too obvious. I need something like Vlad the Impaler." Mum's the schema. Mum's the schema.
Yeah.
And I was like, everything was about my ability to be, scary looking. Back in the early 90s, all the rappers was like,
Yeah.
yo. So that was me. I was there with that. And Mum's the schema. I thought, "Ooh, that's cool." People were like, "What you mean? What you mean by schema? What you talking about?" And then nobody would trust me.
No
And to me, it was all deep poetry. I was like, the greatest schemer will tell you that he's scheming on you.
Yeah.
If you got that deep poetry shit. But yeah,
No
that's how it came about. It stuck. I used to do poetry in New York at this spot called the Nuyorican Poets Cafe down East Third, and it was like a whole backpack poetry scene. Lot of greats that names have been through there, including Eminem, Talib, Mos, Common had been through there. Saul Williams, I came up with Saul Williams doing poetry. What's her name? Damn. Anyway, a lot of people. The Roots, a lot of people. Yeah. Oh, Jill Scott.
Yeah.
She used to roll through. Yeah. Anyway.
And especially like with the 90s too, like especially within that type of scene too, like poetry was kind of like relevant, within more of the neo soul like alternative scenes too. So
Yeah,
even like working with Common or Mos Def or Talib Kweli or Jeru the Damaha or Damaja like
yeah.
too, like it would be interesting, too. And yeah, I mean poetry
I
in
mean, you know, my thing is like we did some stuff. I'm on a track with Cannabis, MC Search, Most Def, Charlie Baltimore. I mean, we did a track for the Bamboozle soundtrack because we were in the movie called in the Bamboozle movie. We were the Mau Maus, and
yeah,
we did a fucking track that I was like, "Yo, why are we not a group? Why are we not a group?" And
yeah,
then I realized something about the music industry. The music industry is like it gave young black people um, an opportunity to make money and have wealth. But it's when you have these opportunities and then you get there. You're like, oh, I'm in the light. People get real protective of what they got and don't necessarily I don't know. There's a reason why we don't have a lot of rap groups anymore.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And or even the old rap groups. I mean, they don't hardly any of them tour. You know what I mean? And I just think that man, like if we really um, were able to form Voltron in a lot of ways, we could have held on to our ownership over our culture and song and music. You know what I mean? But hey, I know I'm nice.
no doubt, no doubt. And I
Yeah.
know that you've discussed more on, like managing to get the role in Oz, like as Arnold Poet Jackson. But tell me like how like the role for Poet was like formed for you, like being in the show for like literally from the beginning to the end and impact it had for you, just being on that show and being on HBO, like in general.
Yeah. Well, Mums, you know, he liked the name. Tom Fontana, the executive producer of Mars, he loved my Mums the Schemer. That's strange. And but I think he kind of made my character that schemer. You know what I mean? Poet.
Yeah.
When I auditioned for the role played by Harold Perrineau, who is in the wheelchair. I can't think of the character's name, but I love
Augustus
Harold.
Hill, actually.
Huh?
Augustus Hill.
Augustus. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I originally auditioned for that role, but I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to say somebody else's words in front of the camera yet. I could say my words. You know what I mean? So after the audition, the producer he goes, "Oh my God, you're not an actor. You're horrible." But he goes, "But recite for me one of your poems." And I spit, "Kidnapped the president's wife without a plan,"
Yeah.
and he went, he was like, "Oh," and I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna put you in this thing, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And subsequently, like he wrote some great stuff for me, and I did some studying and some practicing, and at the end of the first season, he's like, "Listen, you did really well. You know, I'm gonna have you back. I'm gonna write some more stuff for you rather than you just doing your poetry." And so I took that whole time off between season 1 and season 2 to really study acting. You know, um, mind you, I wasn't good, but I was better. When I came back, and that's all it is. And and it just kind of worked. You know, you know, uh, as my character was kind of in with everybody. You know, and that's kind of allowed me to actually like last the entire season. I guess I don't know. You
No
know.
doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
And acting alongside like a lot of like heavy hitter actors that became like now famous, J.K. Simmons, Adam
yeah,
Wale, Harold Perrineau, Bobby Cannavale, Chuck Zito,
yeah,
a lot of them.
yeah,
And like even working with like well-known, like with Tom Fontana, who's directed like
yeah,
a lot of other shows too, and working with like Bradford Winters, the brother of like Dean Winters too,
yeah.
just working with a lot of these like well-known actors and directors and writers in Oz. How was like working with them? Like, was it like really like a pretty good environment in terms of creative like ideas, like,
Oh
positive
my God.
positivity and such?
Oh my. I'm so lucky, dude. Listen to how many people you just named. I'm so lucky to have worked with all of them. The show taught me a lot about myself, about acting, but then in turn, as we said earlier, acting taught me a lot about myself. So that was a fantastic time. Still friends with a lot of those guys, actually all of them, you know, it's funny how like you don't see somebody for 20 years and then they're like, Ma, you run into them
Yeah.
and I know that if I saw JK, it's a big hug because, when you had to play that type of evil, that type of racist, you got to be the nicest guy in the world. I mean, some of the scenes I hadn't really like fell totally into acting mode just yet before me and JK had a scene together where he had to call me a nigga.
And then I think you said something to Robson or Ari Rogers like, don't
Yeah,
start nothing or I'm gonna like Sammy Sosa that face of yours and all
yeah, 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 yeah.
that.
I just
Yeah.
there was a lot of times where I couldn't take off. I couldn't block out what he was really saying. He's like nigga, and I started laughing. And it never that scene hit the cutting floor because I couldn't keep my face straight because I knew how nice JK was and that what we were saying back and forth to each other was not real. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't make that disconnect. You know, then Saeed, uh,
Iman
you
Walker.
know,
Yeah.
yes, yes, wonderful actor, wonderful actor. And right now, I got to shout out my man Granville Adams,
Yeah.
who was
I think he
second.
was
He's
a
not,
reef in Oz. Yeah.
yes, yes, he's not really doing too well right now, and I just want to wish some blessings to him. Um, he has cancer at the moment, so we're all just saying our best and giving some love. So I had the opportunity. Please put my brother Granville Adams in your prayers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, the Oz, Tom Fontana. It was like when we were doing Oz. It's like Tom was king. Tom was the king, you know, and it it was really interesting to see that dynamic play out amongst actors and production and staff and the producer and then the executive producer and then the studio and the hierarchies and very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
True, true.
uh,
No doubt, no doubt. And I think in this one scene in Oz too, you performed the same poem like Roach Motel towards like Terry Kinney, who played Tim McManus in Oz, like
yeah,
in the
yeah,
second episode
yeah.
of season two, which you also
With the
performed.
notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was okay. Yeah.
So tell me more about that specific ode that you did, and what was the inspiration beyond Roach Motel?
I don't know. I That was one of my more well-known poems on the Poetry Underground. Um, before I even got on Oz. It was that poem, and then there's another poem that I did in Oz called "The Truth." And I don't know, that poem, like for a few years I could do that poem like every time I went to the New Eureka, you know what I mean? It just resonated. It was like my little, like, I don't know if it was an honor to living in the Bronx or growing up in the Bronx, but it was my little um biography or, memoir of growing up in the projects. I had roaches, and I remember roaches in my cereal. You know what I mean? Roaches everywhere. Bow, bow. And it's like that's just that was the '70s in a tenement building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as a kid, it could be the worst environment. You figure out how to play in that motherfucker, won't you? That's how it is. That's what it was. That's what Roach Motels was. Yeah.
True. And being one of the few remaining like cast members who made it to like all seasons, could you like give like some explanation on why Oz ended that way and how the scene was as it is too? And if possible, do you ever think Oz could ever come back in some future, for a season 7 or for like a reedition, just like with all these other TV shows like that?
It's jail. I mean, it could come back. It could go on forever and ever, until the end of time. Because that's just how humanity is, So it's jail. I could be there, I could be gone. The other people will take over. But I mean, that's the metaphysical, scientific, philosophical aspect of that. But things come to an end. And I think the writers were done writing that day, things come to an end. So of course, yes, it could come back. There's no talk of it coming back. And it ended just because things come to an end. You have to ask Tom Fontana.
I'm probably gonna have to ask him soon. This is like my last Oz question before we get to like the other questions. But Malik Dixon, who played Kenanaya in Oz, was he like a certain character that was made to replace Adebisi? Usually because of like the whole like shape type and everything like that too. And if like both of them like were to ever like interact with each other, like who would actually like win in a fight, like Adebisi or Kenanaya?
Adebisi would win in a fight. I don't know if he was there to replace Adebisi, but there's always, you have to have this in drama. So and so yeah, that's what that is. Yes, Adebisi would kick his ass. I'm sorry, but yes.
No doubt. And continuing on with your acting career too, you were in the Chappelle Show, like in the Mad Real World skit where you were casted as like Lysol. So tell me more about that experience working with like people like Dave Chappelle and like Charlie Murphy, like on that show.
I love Charlie Murphy. I mean, it was wonderful working with those guys. Charlie Murphy was brilliant. Dave is brilliant. Charlie Murphy, I ain't see him coming. And he's the type of dude that would make you laugh and not know that he's being funny. And then kind of go, fuck you laughing for? you know what I mean? Like, you making fun of me or some shit? Like, he can make you laugh and kick your ass. And that was a wonderful experience. Really, it was like early Dave Chappelle. Fearless, man. He was fearless. Some of the stuff we did on that skit, I don't think made it to the final edit. But and I just tried to just stay in character, Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I couldn't find like the actual episode, but I've seen like a variety of clips like on YouTube, like on the site. And you didn't really say much on that show too, but like the impact
No.
was like very crazy. Like Charlie Murphy playing Tyree, saying that Lysol like effed your girl and all that, and that shit's like crazy. And that could,
Yeah.
that actually does happen in a skit like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, like I said, they were fearless. They were fearless, And I was still early in my acting career, so I learned a lot because I did a lot of facial gestures that were just like, oh, that's what he means.
No doubt, no doubt. I also noticed your other roles, like in Sopranos, where you played Mop, sort of like the character in the hospital when Tony Soprano was like watching boxing with like Lord Jamar's character, and
Lord Jamar, that's my dude.
yeah,
Yo, I don't even remember the scene that you're talking about.
it was like the scene where you guys were like sitting in the hospital. I think you were sitting with
Oh, that's right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, because I know. I mean, my son. I did an
Creek,
episode of
Creek was
Sopranos, but
also
I'm
there
like,
too.
yeah,
And also I think Eddie Falco and like
yeah.
the
Edie.
guy who
I've
played
done
the
a lot of work with
Paulie.
Edie. Yeah, I have. I think the last time I worked with Edie Falco was on. It was either on her show or the little web show that we did with Louis C.K., which was really great. Horace and Pete,
True,
and
true.
it was Louis C.K. and there's a few great actors on there. Alan Alda. I didn't get a chance to be in the scene with him, but I met him and it was
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. But
And
yeah, I did Edie Falco's show, and Edie was on Oz. That's how I knew Edie from back in the day. And she's one of my favorite actors.
yeah,
So dope. So dope. Yeah.
and
What else
also
you got for me?
you worked with Spike Lee like in Bamboozled,
ah,
where you also explained about that. So tell me more about being in that movie and working with Spike Lee, like, and the
whenever
experience in general.
whenever Spike calls, Mums comes and running. That's what
Yeah.
that's our relationship. I'll be sitting here on the couch and I'll be watching TV and the phone will ring and Spike will be like, Mums, you want to make a movie? Yes. Well, tell me when and where. Just tell me when and where, and then I call my manager. Spike just called. And they go, gotcha. And it gets to happening, I'll never turn down Spike, what Spike has done for um, for Black people in general, the whole Black diaspora, is just,
Yeah, it's beautiful, and
yeah, I got no words. So, and whenever Tyler Perry calls, I'm gonna come running, cause the two of them, I don't know, the future for Black people in this medium, in this industry, looks bright. And it is only because of the hard work of those two dudes right there. And a host of other people, of course, but ooh, whenever Spike calls, I come running.
no doubt. And
Yeah,
I'm glad that Spike Lee, I think, won his Oscar or Academy Award,
yeah, yeah.
like in Black Klansman, because all those years of working hard in the industry, directing these very like stellar
Mm-hmm.
movies to like, and not even getting the recognition that you deserve, and to finally be able
No,
to get that award and being happy, like it's something that you could be very proud of as yourself too, like even like as a Black actor or like a Black director in a sense too.
mm-hmm. I mean, like it's like this industry is very interesting because it brightens a light on history. I mean, there are people in history that a lot of people didn't know about until they saw the movie about that person. You know what I mean? And then you do your research, but for the first time after seeing Malcolm X, as somebody who didn't know about Malcolm X, that's a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you do that research and don't go read the autobiography of Malcolm X, you know, that's a service that Spike Lee just did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's nothing. Yeah.
That's cool. And one of your most recent roles that you took part in was in Luke Cage, where you
Yeah.
played as Reggie,
Squabbles.
aka Squabbles, who was like Luke
Squabbles.
Squabbles. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like Luke's acquaintance and trainer when he was in prison. So, how was that
Yeah.
experience like, as well as
That was a lot of fun. That was one of my more memorable roles. I mean, it wasn't a lot, you know, and Squabbles sadly didn't make it, but that was a lot of fun, you
Yeah.
know. And then after that, I was just done with anything that had me in jail.
Yeah, I know what
Jail
you mean.
cells have I seen, you know, and but hey, whatever. Yeah. And it's nice to be in the Marvel universe, even for just a blip.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
You know, being a hardworking actor as well as like a consistent performer in terms
Mm.
of like theater and poetry, how did you manage to provide like longevity to your entertainment career for over like 25 years? And what would be some like great advice that you would give to like any aspiring actor or actresses out there, you know?
I love it. I mean, I love it. You know, it's being an actor is like playing in the sandbox all day, you know, and I just love it. I mean, it fulfills every need career wise. I make money. I have fun. I'm creative. I enjoy myself. Yeah. So beyond being an actor, I consider myself a creative, a creator, an artist. Um, you know, I spend my free time, you know, doodling in my graffiti book. You know, I write plays. I write short stories. I write poetry. I write rhymes. You know, I guess my advice to an up and coming actor is don't try to be an actor. Just fall in love with it. Love it. Love it. Get the industry out of your mind. Don't go looking for an agent or a manager. Get to work. And an agent and a manager will find you. You know, opportunity finds you working. You know, so when I say get to work, write something, shoot it, have your boy shoot it, you know, or your man or your girl or whatever, shoot it and put it up because, you know, thank God, look, you got the internet now. You got YouTube, you got Instagram, TV, and all of that shit, you know, and then shoot another one, you know. And as you're doing this, you'll only get better. You're acting or you're directing or managing. It'll all get better. And as it gets better, someone will recognize. You know, I learned a long time ago when I was an MC trying to get a record deal. It's like I realized that you don't go chase record deals. Record deals chase you. You know what I mean? If you stand on the corner, you know, whistling Dixie, you know, for 6 years, eventually somebody will be like, yo, I seen you on this corner whistling Dixie for like 5 years, man. But you got better. You wasn't that good in the beginning, but you got so much better. Here's my card. You know, the sun, the sun stays in one place and spins and gets hot. Be like the sun. Stay in one place and get hot, and everything will revolve around you.
True,
That's
true.
some poetic shit right there, boy.
I feel you. Definitely know what you mean too. and especially being creative in all senses too. I just only have like two questions left. I know I kind of skipped this one too because we kind of explained it, but what would be your creative process when making poetry? Like, do you have like a certain way on like making it, or is it just sort of?
Um, hmm. See, this is why I don't teach poetry, because I don't like to give away my secrets. I'm a very competitive person, bro. know,
Mm,
I'm playing football for like 6 years. And that's all. And I thought I was going to get. In fact, I I was almost. I was headed to West Point to play football. I had a congressional nomination to play football, and I had a few other scholarships on the table. And it just never happened. I didn't want to do it. After a while, it's just I wasn't happy playing with the same people, playing with different people than the people I was playing with before. You know what I mean? You
yeah.
play with the same guys for 6 years. New guys, and I didn't want to fight that hard. Plus, I had already fell in love with what it was to be an MC and a creative. So that became more of a hobby and started to become a pursuit. So I gave that up. But the competitive nature within me has been there. So, with that said, no, I'm not going to tell you about my process of creating poetry.
No worries, no worries, man.
But I'll just
Secrets.
say this. I'll say this. I freestyle a lot, and I'm good at it. You know. Also, I study a lot. Um, the things that I want to study. I'm very interested in philosophies, all kinds of philosophies, and excuse me, numerology and numbers and religion, and all the big thinking things. Why are we here? And also give me um subjects to write about within my voice. You know what I mean? You know, if the question is, why do we exist? Then it's why do we exist in the Bronx? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no.
In the language of the Bronx or whatever. So that's part of me. That's part of the MC or writer that I am. The depth in our common language. The depth of ideas within our common language. Uh, yeah.
No
But
doubt.
I ain't gonna tell you no more. Cause
No
you
worries.
asking me for my recipes, man.
I mean, some people like rappers tend to talk about the creative processes too. I know
No,
for
no, no.
people who are like very like skilled and at the highest like upper echelons too. They don't want to give that away. It's like
Hell
trying to
yeah,
hide.
because when I started hearing myself out there, that's when I was like, nah, I can't. I taught some poetry and rap MC workshops. I probably will do more, but I'll be in control of that. I mean, the idea, the process is to just write, really write. You know, goddamn, I can't write right now. I'm so blocked in my head. I'm saying, what I just said, bed. You heard what I said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So we'll just keep it that way too. I just want to end it off with this. What are your plans for this year in terms of like any acting or poetry opportunities or other creative projects? And
Um, I'm on my way back to this show called Hightown, the season 2 of Hightown on Showtime. So I'm about to head down there and shoot an episode or two. So I don't know when that's going to come out. Probably by the end of the year, by the fall. Um, I may be doing my solo show again in New York City, depending on what happens with the COVID and all of this stuff. But I may be working with the Public Theater and the National Black Theater and to bringing my solo show, Sucker MC, back to the stage. And then maybe a book,
True, true.
maybe
And
maybe a script. I don't know. Something's happening.
and do
Couple
you
things.
have any like final words or highlights you want to say to like the audience out there? You know, before like we like wrap it up.
For one, again, my name is muMs, the schemer. MUMS. Manipulator under manipulation. That's why the second M is huge. That's me. Okay. Across the board, social media, I am Sir Mumsula. I am unverified. I don't need I don't need their verification. I know who I am. Sir Mumsila, SIRMUMSILA. Okay. What else? What else I got popping? Um, um, everybody should be a rapper. At least know how to. Actors should never chase managers or agents. I love you, baby. My girlfriend's in the kitchen. Opportunity finds you working. Opportunity finds you working. And keep up with me. Put your ear to the ground. Listen out for muMs. I'm gonna do some shouting soon. Okay?
True.
All right.
All right. I'm